Getting it all done in the afternoon can be so tricky. Today, we offer a provocative slice of advice built out of 25 years of raising 6 kids on how to manage the after-school, afternoon, evening routine when there's so much to do and so little time. This is the Happy Families Podcast, real parenting solutions every day. On Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast, we are Justin and Kylie Coulson. I'm the co-host and parenting expert on Channel 9's Parental Guidance, and we are the parents of 6 kids, 6 daughters.
Afternoons and evenings are so intense.
I feel like work days generally, like mornings, afternoons, time with the kids, it's all intense.
So our one slice of advice is actually based on a book that you read a few years ago.
Yeah, and I love this book. This would probably be in my top 10 books, I think. It's called Rethink. Rethinking is the name of the book by Adam Grant. He's a professor at the Wharton School. Fabulous book, brilliant advice. This concept that we should take stock every now and again and rethink everything. Doesn't mean you're going to change what you're doing, but by rethinking, you get to analyze where you're at and why you're there.
Over the years, we've done lots of rethinking.
Yeah, we've rethunk our whole lives, I reckon, a lot of times.
And I would often be stopped by people who'd say, "Oh, I hear you're doing so-and-so." And I'd look at them going, "What are you talking about?" And realise that, yes, we had rethunk things and we had tried that one and it didn't work. So it didn't stay in the routine for very long.
Life is a series of experiments in our family, isn't it?
Yes. It really is. We've spent our whole lives rethinking and it doesn't stop. It literally doesn't stop. This year, as we've come back, I've personally shared that I've done a lot of rethinking about what this year will look like for me personally. And our children are the same. I recently had an experience with Emily. She has a social group that she goes to on a Wednesday lunchtime with a handful of other girls who homeschool. And she absolutely loves it. But until then...
Just cutting you off for a sec, that social group's supposed to go for 2 hours and you're lucky to get out of there in 3.5, right? I mean, she just cannot get enough.
She absolutely loves it. Before we found this group, however, she was going bouldering in the afternoon from 4 o'clock for just under an hour.
Yeah, that's like her Wednesday afternoon...
PE class.
PE class, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And she loves it. But after a couple of weeks of doing the 2 back-to-back, she just looked at me and she said, "Mum, I don't think I can do it all." And I think that her recognition is something that we all experience from time to time, especially as parents. We can't do it all. And the idea that we might rethink the things that need to go into our daily routine would be really helpful.
Yeah, make no mistake, some kids are go-getters and adrenaline junkies, and some kids love it. I remember I was doing a big PR campaign for a major company some years ago, and they had hired a young boy, I think he was maybe 10 years of age or thereabouts, to be another spokesperson for the brand during this whole PR campaign thing that was happening. And this kid, I was talking to his mum, and he, I think, if I remember correctly, was doing 11 extracurricular activities. 11 extracurricular activities filled his week. Some of them he did more than once per week. So when you've got an agenda that is that packed, a calendar that is that full, I just looked at the mum and said, number one, how do you afford it all? That's not my business. I mean, you go for it. If you've got the time and the resources, that's up to you. But number two, how's he go with it? And her response was he loves it. He eats it up. He's a go-getter kid with so much energy. He's bouncing off the walls, and he has chosen every one of those. Can you imagine paying for 11 different activities? But I think that's pretty unusual. I don't think that's the norm at all. I don't know too many families that can afford it. But my point really is that Emily's situation is probably more likely to be real. That is, I can handle so much and then I'm kind of cactus. I'm kaput. I need to take a break. So I want us to rethink why we're so often so willing to impose adult schedules on children's natural rhythms. The real issue isn't managing after-school routines. It's our society's fixation on productivity and control. There's a story that I tell often about how when you were pregnant with our second child, I was trying to be helpful, so I decided to do all the washing. I put all the darks in one pile. I put all the whites in another pile. I put all the pinks, because we had a daughter and everything was pink, in another pile. And then I grabbed all of the darks, because that was the biggest pile, and I stuck them in the washing machine. And I had to really stick them in there. I mean, it was chock-a-block full, and I was still trying to cram darks in. When I took that washing out of the machine, it was dirtier than it had been when it went in there. And once you saw me browsing the Harvey Norman catalogue to find a new washing machine, you had to look at the size of the pile of washing and identified that I tried to cram too much in. And when you try to cram too much in, you get lousy results. After the break, how to get this balance right, how to rethink the stress and the structure of your afternoons and evenings. Whether you're a stay-at-home mum or dad or a double-income family with zero margin, so that you can get those afternoon and evening routines on song. Today on the Happy Families podcast, our slice of advice is rethink. Rethink the stress, rethink the structure, make afternoons work for you rather than you working for the afternoon and evening yourself. Kylie, we have one optimal, one premium, one exquisite way to get rethinking working right.
We talk about this a lot, but this is hands down the number one tip we have for you.
Yep, and repetition is the mother of all learning. So if you've heard it before, here it is again, because this is the stuff that works.
Family meetings are the key to getting our routines and rhythms right. The magic of family meetings is that everyone has a voice. In the story you shared earlier about the young boy who had 11 extracurricular activities that he was just busting to be involved in, sitting down as a family, the conversation might go something like this. I know that you are loving the activities that you've handpicked to do. And we love being able to give you these opportunities. But right now, your mum and dad are actually really, really struggling financially, might be the case. Or we're really struggling with time management right now.
Yeah,
we
the well is empty.
Have the capacity to do it right now. Or there are some other things that you may not be aware of that are really impacting our capacity to be as supportive as we would normally be. What do you think we should do about it?
Yeah, like mum had to go and get a second job because everything's really expensive these days.
Or mum's about to go and have an operation, or dad's going to lose hours, or any number of things. Change the equilibrium in your daily life regularly.
Now, you're not using the kids as psychotherapists. This is not a counselling session in that you're trying to work through some kind of therapy. Your children are not your therapists. It's literally saying, hey, cards on the table, here's what we're up against. It's a bit of a challenge right now. Where do you stand? What do you reckon is the best way forward? It's amazing how creative the kids can get and how understanding they can be when they see what game we're playing.
Turn it on its head, though, we might be noticing that the child who loves to do it all is actually really struggling, but they can't see it. They're busting their guts because all of their friends are doing all of these activities and they don't want to miss out.
Or because they just want to please us because we keep on saying that these are the things that they need so that they can have an enriching and enlarged life.
But you're noticing that they're struggling to get out of bed in the morning, or that they're really grumpy when they come home at the end of the day, or whatever it is. And so we can sit down and say, hey, I'm noticing these things. Are you noticing it? What do you think's going on? Do you think that maybe we might look at the routine and structure and just see if there's something we could pull out to just give you a little bit more of a breather? Our kids are growing up in a world where they think, number one, that they can do it all, and number two, often that they have to do it all.
And add to that, as parents, like in the 70s and 80s, most parents weren't thinking, should we stretch ourselves super thin so that we can give our children every enrichment opportunity possible? That just wasn't the default back then.
I didn't even do any enrichment activities when I was growing up.
Right. Whereas 2025 parents feel like it is their sacred responsibility to make sure that the children are participating in these activities.
Well, their kids are going to be on the back foot if they're not involved in team sports and they're not building skill sets and mastering their talents.
Make no mistake, these things are good things to do. We would encourage you to do them if you've got the time and the resources to do it. But
if you're feeling stretched,
oh my goodness,
if you're feeling like you just can't keep going, then rethinking your structures and your priorities is really going to make the biggest difference.
All right, truth bomb. If you're that stressed and if there's that much going on, why? Like, what decisions are you making?
So recently, you and I have been reading a book called Essentialism.
Greg McKeown, one of my top 5 books of all time.
And I am absolutely loving it. And do you know what the one thing that jumps out at me every time we open it up?
The words on the page.
You're so funny.
I'm so good at this.
He is reminding me of the immense power we have to choose. If our lives are so jam-packed, who's in charge of the agenda? Because if it's not you, then we're in trouble, firstly.
Yeah.
But secondly, knowing that it's you, you are the only one who can decide whether or not you're going to keep the agenda the way it is. And I know that that might sound really harsh, but how good does it feel when you remember that you actually get to choose? If you want to keep living life the way you are, that's your choice, and you can do it, and you can recognize and know that this is just a short season in life and you're going to be exhausted for the next few years. And if you're willing to do that, then that's great. But if you are struggling from day to day to get yourselves out of bed and keep moving forward and then falling into bed at the other end, and you don't want to keep doing that, then you get to choose what it looks like.
Does the schedule serve you, or do you serve the schedule? That's really what this is about. Rethink your afternoons, rethink the default.
And use family meetings.
And instead of, the family meeting does this, right? Instead of imposing the routine, collaborate with your kids to design experiments and try different approaches, maybe for a week or two each. Maybe it's homework first 1 week. I have some things to say about homework. We don't really have time today.
A handful of years ago, I was done running. And I literally said to you, we are cutting out all extracurriculars. I'm done. We're not doing any of these.
I thought you meant like running, as in running park run, running 5Ks.
It felt like I was every day.
All day, every day.
And we did. We took it out. And after a term, you looked at me and you said, we really need to give the kids some more opportunities. And so I said, all right, well, they can only do 2 things each. That's it. That's all I've got in me. And over time, you being the let's just do it all and say yes to everything, we slowly added more and more to the calendar. And we got back to the same point where I said, let's get rid of it all. But here's the reality. Like you said, this is a life experiment. We're working it out all the time, and things are going to change. Our capacity is going to change. Our kids' desires and wants are going to change, and that's okay.
So keep having those family meetings. Keep collecting data on what works best for your family. Remember that the best routine isn't the one that works for other families. It's the one that emerges from your testing and learning together. And recognize, as Kylie's very clearly pointed out, it will keep on changing every single term, sometimes even more frequently than that. You think you've got it nailed down, and it just keeps on changing. But the key word, if you want to get your afternoons and evenings right, or perhaps any part of your life, the key word is rethink, rethink, rethink. And communicate about it as a family. Collect the data and then rethink again. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Ruan from Bridge Media. If you'd like more information and more resources to make your family happier, we'd love for you to check out happyfamilies.com.au.